running high on the Korean peninsula. South Korea blamed the North for a recent attack and resumed anti-Pyongyang broadcasts over loudspeakers along its border. But what does this mean for the recent talks? And does it have larger ramifications? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Mike Hanna. The North and South Korean governments are used to the occasional exchange of hostile rhetoric and even live fire. The two countries are, after all, technically still at war, and their border is one of the most tense in the world. But it's rare that officials from Pyongyang and Seoul are forced to sit down, as they've been doing since Saturday, in an effort to pull their nations back from the brink of armed conflict. Before we bring in our guest, Harry Fawcett explains how we got here.
Well, in the history of these periods of heightened tensions between North and South Korea, it's not uncommon for the messages to be sent by both sides to be pretty mixed, and so it's turned out over the last few days. Earlier on Sunday, we saw the South Korean delegation drive through this checkpoint across the Tongil Bridge behind me towards Panmunjom, the truce village where these talks have been taking place. But at the same time, South Korean media have been reporting a South Korean military source as saying that there have been significant military maneuvers north of the border. Most significant, potentially, what's been happening with the submarine fleet. 50 reportedly of North Korea's 70 submarines have been deployed from their bases on both coasts of North Korea, so far undetected by South Korean ships and planes. As well as that, artillery on the northern side has been doubled, we're told, while these talks have been going on. It's worth pausing and thinking how we got to this point. It was on August the 4th when there were landmine blasts in the South Korean side of the demilitarized zone, which injured seriously 2 South Korean soldiers. The South, a week later, said it was a North Korean attack and restarted loudspeaker broadcasts, propaganda broadcasts across the border. The North denied that it had any responsibility for those landmines and has been demanding that South Korea end those broadcasts, up to the point of issuing a 48-hour deadline on Thursday for them to end. Otherwise, there would be a North Korean military strike against them. That was before these talks took place. But the problem is South Korea says that it will not end those broadcasts until and unless North Korea apologizes for the landmine attack. So we have a very divided situation, even though we have had talks over the last couple of days.
Well, since taking office from his father, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has carried out a purge of top officials. South Korean intelligence officials believe Kim has executed 70 officials since 2011. Among them the execution of his uncle and political mentor Jang Sung-taik 2 years ago, as well as intelligence chief, defense chief Hyung Yong-choi, who's thought to have been killed with an anti-aircraft gun in May. Well, let's now bring in our guests. In Seoul, B.J. Kim, adjunct professor in Hankook University of Foreign Studies. In London, Andrew Young, Asia region strategist. And joining us on Skype from Busan, Robert Kelly, Professor of International Relations and Diplomacy at Busan National University. Welcome to you all. Let's begin with B.J. King. How dangerous is this latest dispute? Is it saber-rattling once again, or is it maybe something more?
Well, we'd like to hope that this is the former. And the South Koreans, having been exposed to this kind of threats before so many times for the past several decades, looks like this is another one of those experiences that we've been through. But you know, the great uncertainty in this situation is the one that makes us feel, every time, we'd like to hide it or we'd like to set it aside, but nervous. So once again, one of those situations. But in terms of like level of tension that we remember, perhaps the highest that we remember.
Well, Robert Kelly, your view, are we looking at a situation on the brink, or is this theater?
Yeah, okay. So far it's theater. The North Koreans have done stuff like this fairly frequently, as your previous guest suggested. In 2010, there were 2 very severe incidents, much worse than this, in which about 50 South Koreans were killed in 2 separate incidents. Those also had sort of this characteristic saber-rattling and great deal of rhetoric, a lot of sort of global media attention, and there were sort of great deals of talk that this might spin out of control. And it didn't.
And then again in 2013 in the spring, after the current president was South Korea was inaugurated, there was a big war crisis for about 4 weeks, 5 weeks, in which the North Koreans told foreigners in South Korea to leave the country, and they closed the shared industrial park. And again, it was sort of, couched in all this sort of, explosive apocalyptic rhetoric, and then the North backed down. And that's why I anticipate this time. I don't see anything this time that's really different from the previous iterations of these sort of shenanigans, and that's how I read it.
Well, Andrew Leung, the one very significant piece of information is that it appears that these talks are continuing despite the ongoing disputes on both sides. How significant is the fact that the talks are going on?
Well, the significance is in fact who demanded the talks in the first place. According to the reports, it was the North Koreans who demanded the talks in spite of their saber rattling. So this is significant in the sense that they probably engineering all this to address certain issues inside the country, which of course is highly unstable. And you can see that in recent reports they executed certain top officials, and then the country's economy is in shambles. So I think that they are likely to try to use the same kind of rhetoric and also saber rattling to attract attention and to increasing the bargaining chips. But as I said, it's significant that it was the North Koreans who demanded these talks in the first place.
And Vijay Kim, significant too, perhaps the level of the people who are taking part in these talks. I mean, we understand that Hwang Kyung-so, the deputy to Kim Jong-un, is taking part in these talks. This is very significant, is it not?
Right, indeed. Especially at this time of high tension. We actually had Hwang Kyung-so, the same person, and also Kim Yang-gun, the second person at the talk, visiting us about, in my recollection, about 10, 11 months ago here in Korea when we had the closing of Asian Games last year. And it was a suddenly announced visit, but at that time we didn't have like heightened tension. It was more of a surprise visit of what looks like a goodwill and an effort to initiate a dialogue or something. But yes, we have seen this kind of very high-level delegation coming to the table at the time of this very exceptionally high level of tension. So indeed, number two person after Kim Jong-un coming to the table itself seems to be meaning a lot of different things here. But we're just anxiously waiting for the result of the talk.
Andrew Leung, can we read greater significance into the fact in terms of the status of those taking part in these talks?
Obviously, the delegation represented the Kim Jong-un, the top leader, because that's after all, this is his strategy. Trying to stabilize the country, but also attract international attention. But I think there's one more factor, though, which is the upcoming anniversary of the founding of the party, of the Communist Party in North Korea. And so the intention is to push the kind of nationalism within the country, to divert attention from the famine, from the kind of turmoil North Korea is facing. So obviously, they need to feel the very high power delegation representing Kim Jong-un himself in order to just try to exert leverage in the negotiations.
Well, Robert Kelly, we heard mention there of the anniversary on the 10th of October, the founding of the Korean Workers' Party, as one of the perhaps motivating factors in terms of this ongoing dispute. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, North Korea has a tendency to sort of pull stunts and provocations on major holidays. North Korea has a whole series of sort of national secular holidays based around the Kim family and the party and various events in the war, the Korean War in the 50s. And so I would imagine that there will be something key to this coming one. I'm not sure if this, with the landmine and the spiraling incident of the last 2 weeks, is a part of that. I would suggest actually that the KWP anniversary will probably see a missile launch. But yes, it's very clear that the North Koreans follow a sort of rhythm of provocation and misbehavior according to the calendar that they built for themselves, yes. Well, BJ Kim, we heard the suggestion there that part of what is happening here is an attempt to divert attention away from internal processes within North Korea. Do you think there's any validity to that point?
I think there is a certain validity to that indeed, because considering the overall history of North Korea, this has been, meaning that creating noise outside, being as a means to divert the attention away from the domestic discontent. That has been consistent pattern of North Korea, that's for sure. So this time we think, there's no exception to that as well. And especially with the coming of young leader for the past couple of years, and him getting rid of some of his closest associates through different accusations and so on, it just seems to be indicating the high level of instability of the system. So if indeed they have a high level of instability in their system, the need for doing so, creating noise outside, to divert the attention away, increases. And we're continuously hearing these reports about food crisis and internal potentially disruptive sentiments building up and so on. It looks like it makes perfect sense to present such theory of trying to divert the attention away from home.
Well, let's just broaden the issue a bit. This year, the US and Western allies made great strides in repairing relations with long-standing enemies, leaving North Korea as something of an anomaly. It stands in stark contrast with countries like Iran, which is moving closer to normal ties with Western countries, or even Cuba, where just last week the US raised its flag at the reopened embassy in Havana for the first time in over 50 years, a symbol of thawing relations. Well, Robert Kelly, do you think that there's an awareness in Pyongyang that they are perhaps the odd person out in what is an international process, it seems, in the recent year?
Yeah, I do. I think they probably are aware of this. And I do also think that the North Korean elite realized that they actually came clean on things and really sort of reached back to South Korea or the United States if they could get some kind of deal. I don't actually think they wanted a deal, because North Korea fears long-term normalization with South Korea and the United States, because without tension, there's no reason for North Korea to exist. Without a hostile relationship between North Korea and its local opponents, there's really no reason for North Korea to exist anymore, just like East Germany disappeared. So the North Koreans really aren't interested in an Iran-style deal or a Cuban-style normalization.
And yet, Andrew Leung, some contend that Pyongyang seems the principal player in any form of dialogue as Washington rather than Seoul. Would that be a correct assumption? And what kind of effect does that have on this round of talks?
Well, I think that just diverting attention of the people in North Korea, and also international attention from the problems inside North Korea, is not enough to address this root causes of the problem. And of course, Kim Jong-un and his advisors knows that, and there has been reports, according to my sources, that they are, for example, developing a railway connecting the seaports in North Korea to the markets in China and neighboring countries. So that suggests that North Korea could be looking at the economic side, but for that to happen, they need to the Western countries to ease some of their sanctions against North Korea, and of course they're learning something from the recent negotiations on Iran, for example. So I think that they're trying to increase their bargaining chips in order to maybe to get some help, financial investments, and easing of the sanctions, so that they can again try to push forward their economic agenda. But on the other hand, there's no chance that they will release their kind of authoritarian rule over their people.
Well, BJ King, I mean, the clarity here is that there is an economic imperative. There is a need for Pyongyang to move labor in and out of its country. There's a need for foreign reserves that labor going to China, that going to Russia does develop and generate. Once again, is that kind of imperative something that will determine what Korea does, what Pyongyang does, or is that something that's actually very much on the sidelines in terms of they're developing their policy?
Look, in terms of when we talk about the Pyongyang's priorities, actually, economic concern has never been as important as their political survival. For the past several decades, ever since the collapse of the Soviet Union and collapse of communism elsewhere, the political survival has been their key concern. And so they have been building their system based on extreme autarky. And here, at this point of the time, expecting them to seek openness and exchange with the outside world seems to be a little bit unrealistic, because they've been trying to do all they can to secure the survival of the leadership. There, as a side effect, they show that they don't care about the survival of the common North Koreans, especially those people who are living far away from the capital. That's why we have been hearing all these reports about famines and people dying in large numbers during the 1990s. So now, still, I think their top priority, which is the survival of the top leadership, continues to be in place. Therefore, we need other factors or new variables to talk about any kind of their economic concerns and their motivation to open up to the outside world for greater material exchange.
Well, Robert Kelly, one of those motivators might indeed be developments in the region, in particular, of course, China, absolutely critical to Pyongyang's future. The United States engaging in a degree of footsie with China. There are regional ramifications underway here, which could well have an impact on the nature of a relationship, a traditional relationship between China and Pyongyang. Do you believe that's correct?
Yeah, I do. North Korea really needs China. Without China, North Korea has no access to the global financial system. It doesn't get political coverage in the United Nations. It doesn't get the sort of obfuscation of its misbehavior that China provides now, right? So the United States and South Korea more than the United States, in fact, have tried pretty hard in the last few years to sort of pry China away from Pyongyang, or at least convince China to take a more neutral stance, particularly when it comes to nuclearization. The United States really doesn't believe that it actually has a great deal of leverage over North Korea, because we believe, the Americans tend to believe, that the North Koreans cheat on a lot. So the Obama administration is really not engaged North Korea in talks very much anymore. They call that strategic patience. And we really try to throw the ball towards the Chinese and get the Chinese to deal with them. Right? It's not really clear if the Chinese are going to push the North Koreans hard, but relations between China and North Korea are the worst they've been in 25 years. So that's progress.
Well, Andrew Young, you mentioned anniversaries. There's another anniversary coming up on the 3rd of September, which is massive celebrations in China, marking the end of the Second World War. Now, this, of course, a very important thing symbolically for China. It would want all the leaders in the region, particularly that of South Korea and North Korea, present. Is this another factor that we are looking at, with China being very cautious about what is happening in the current dispute with regard to its status in the weeks ahead?
Well, North Korea, of course, is used to be a very close ally, and depends on China for its economic survival and regime survival to a certain extent. But recent years suggest that the North Koreans are really, pardon the expression, pissed the Beijing off by announcing their unilateral decision for nuclear testing and firing missiles and so on and so forth. And so I don't think that Beijing is very happy with North Korea. But on the other hand, Beijing doesn't want to cause a major turmoil near its border. And after all, China sees that North Korea would be an important kind of neighbor to balance the powers in the Korean Peninsula. But I think that the point I was trying to make was that North Korea, of course, is at a very critical stage in its regime survival. It just executed a lot of top leaders inside its party, and the country is economic is in shambles. So that's why the North Koreans are ratcheting all this military rhetoric and so on and so forth, so it increases bargaining chips. But on the other side, you just can't hide all those problems under the table all the time. They know that they've got to address the economy. And I was saying that they're still trying quietly going about building this railway link with China's ports and so on and so forth. But that needs money, and then for the money to be available, they want to put pressure on the other powers to relax their sanctions against North Korea, and this is part of their tricks.
Well, BJ Kim, to put it perhaps a little bit more politely, to what extent is the fact that China may be getting more and more irritated with North Korea a factor that is underlying everything as well? An awareness in Pyongyang that the relationship with China cannot be completely assured all the time. Is there that awareness?
Yeah, and I think there's such awareness, and that's part of the reason why we've been seeing North Korea going more erratic these days for the past few years, and less stable in terms of their behavior, because they seem to be feeling they're losing their grip or losing their ground in terms of having their reliable ally right next to them. So feeling totally, increasingly alone by themselves may be driving them towards the greater desire to possess nuclear weapons as a last resort to defend themselves. So that's one front, and then others, like institutions like this, because they no longer have the reliable ally they used to. That probably is there is a lack of guidance or advice, for instance, coming from outside the world, and that's probably why they're acting like this, increasingly so for the past few years, I suppose. So indeed, the changing relationship between Pyongyang and Beijing seems to be an important variable here in terms of trying to explain the erratic behavior of Pyongyang.
Robert Kelly, very quickly, the idea of Pyongyang operating as a lone wolf, surely even of its closest allies, this perhaps the most dangerous factor of all.
Yes and no. I mean, I don't actually think that the Chinese do a very good job of controlling North Korea, so I'm not sure how much worse it could get. I mean, I suppose they could start a war, right? But I would actually argue that China cutting off North Korea is sort of the final door in the trap that needs to be shut to pen in North Korea, right? North Korea has no other patrons. The days when China or Japan, the United States, or South Korea will support North Korea are over. Those days won't come back. Russia's too weak. All that's left is China. So if you can pry China away from the North, then North Korea is in real trouble. Not immediately, but the North Korean budget will start to shrink. All the sort of the trade right now that props up North Korea will start to disappear. The cash that the regime elites want will start to disappear. All the regime goodies, all the decadent goodies that the regime elites want for the lifestyle, the high definition televisions, and the yachts, and all that kind of stuff, that will all disappear. And then the regime elites will start to turn on each other, right? So we've got to pry away China from North Korea. So I would actually argue that's the long-term way to resolve this.
Andrew Lung, very quickly, your view on that, the idea of North Korea going it alone.
Well, I think that China's strategy is not so much to use coercion or sanctions to bring North Korea back from the brink, as it were, but to use this economic lever and the economic connectivity, and the hope is to eventually integrate North Korea into the overall China's greater economy. As you can see, that China is now launching its One Belt, One Road strategy, trying to connect Europe and Eurasia and other, in fact, is a transcontinental kind of connection. And without that, even China's container ports is already at the very center of the world's trade and shipping. So the idea is that it's better to use the kind of economic lever to bring the North Koreans back from the brink, as it were, from all this brinkmanship. That would be much more effective than using sanctions and coercion.
Well, at that particular point, much to ponder, but my thanks to our guests, BJ Kim, Andrew Young, and Robert Kelly. And thank you for watching. If you have any comments about today's show, you can get in touch by going to our program page at aljazeera.com or paste your comments on facebook.com/AJ Inside Story, or you can tweet us at AJ Inside Story. From me, Mike Hanna, and the whole team, thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.